stay awake for too long. Don't go to bed. I'll make a cup of coffee for your head.
Some quick background information I want to give before we get started is that the Turks captured Constantinople in 1453. Greece became part of the Ottoman Empire, inspired by the late 18th century revolutions in North America and Western Europe. As well as their own sense of Greek nationalism, a group of Greek loyalists planned a rebellion against the Ottoman state. They gained support of numerous countries, including Great Britain, France, and Russia. Greece became an independent nation after signing the Treaty of Adrianople in 1832. So today, Greeks have only accounted for a small percentage of the total immigrants to the United States. They formed strong ethnic communities that kept alive their language, tradition, and religion. Persons of Greek ancestry only account for 0.4% of the current population of the United States. The migration of the Greeks to the United States did not begin until the 1880s, but there were some of the first Greek immigrants that arrived during the 1820s, when the Greek War of Independence from the Ottoman Empire left Greece with a large foreign debt, and the lack of industrialization forced citizens to look somewhere else for employment. Hint, the U.S.A., which is one of the most important push factors that pushed the Greeks to the United States. This is where the migration begins, and the first wave of Greek migrants arrived in 1893, which followed the rapid fall of the price of currants, which in the U.S., currants often means Satan currants, aka dry cardinal grapes that are more or less just small raisins. Currants were the Greece's main export product, and the price declined so much that the Greek farmers went bankrupt and they were unable to pay the taxes. This poor economic climate promoted many Greeks to migrate. Immigrants used small boats in Patras, Greece, that would take them to America in the 1910s. From the time of the 1980s to the 1914s, almost a sixth of the population of Greece migrated, mostly to the United States. This immigration was encouraged by the Greek authorities, who saw remittance as helping to improve the balance of payments of the Greek economy. This was seen as international forced migration, which means any migration that crosses an international borders where the migrant is compelled to force or flee another country. Migrants could be fleeing from violence, starvation, and political repression. The Greeks felt the need to migrate because of the government was occurring to them, and they did not have any other way of making money to feed their families. They had many economic push factors. Young men especially began leaving the country during the late 19th century in hope of gaining employment in the United States. Greek immigration to the United States began around the 1880s, with one of the largest number of migrations during the early 20th century. Between 1990 and the 1920s, there were more than 305,000 Greek immigrants to the United States. About 95% of the Greek immigrants who came between 1899 and 1910 were men. In keeping the Greek tradition, these men often worked to secure dowries for their sisters back home. In 1905 alone, Greek immigrants remitted more than $4 million to their families in Greece. In the second wave, more than 1 million Greeks migrated. Most migrated to Western Europe, the U.S.A., Canada, and Australia. The migration mainly fell between 1950s and 1974. Economic and political push factors motivated their move, both connected with the consequences of the 1946 and 1949 Civil War. The majority of these immigrants came from rural areas, and they supplied both national and international labor markets. Once arriving to the United States, most immigrants found jobs in various industries. A large Greek community formed in Louis, Massachusetts, where many Greek men worked in mills. In Utah and Colorado, Greeks found work in copper and coal mines. In California, they worked in railroad gangs. Many were victimized by patrons, labor workers who recruited immigrants for jobs in exchange for immigrant wages. Close to the 20th century, Greek immigrants that settled around the U.S. started to build their own businesses. For example, they opened shoe shine parlors, candy shop, and most famously, restaurants. Some were placed in Chicago and would serve native cuisines to fellow Greeks. Others moved into lunch business. They worked from streetcars that only sold inexpensive fare to factory workers. Then there was an opening of permanent establishment of using family members for labor and using them for the startup money of their restaurants. These restaurant businesses were the first stable economic base for Greeks in America. One major way Greeks made themselves feel at home was through church. They unified this way. By 1918, nearly 130 Orthodox churches have been found across the country. Churches provided the immigrants with forums in which way to share their common beliefs. During the early 21st century, Greek Orthodox churches have continued to serve as cultural and social centers for many Greeks communities within the United States. Just like every other minority group that migrated to the U.S.A., Greeks were discriminated. In the early 20th century, Greeks in the United States were discriminated against in many ways. Greek immigrants, unaware of labor conditions and largely inexperienced, served as strike breakers during a strike in Chicago diesel shops. On February 21st, 1909, a major anti-Greek riot took place in South Omaha, Nebraska. The Greek population was forced to leave the city, while properties owned by Greek immigrants were destroyed. Some of the ways Greek contributed to the United States was the alphabet and the Olympics. The Greek alphabet was the first alphabet in the Western sense of the word, featuring distinct letters and vowels and consonants. It was developed after the Dark Ages consisted of 24 letters ordered from alpha to omega. Today, many letters of our modern alphabet originate from the Greek alphabet, including letters such as A, B, E, and O. Another way is the Olympic Games that started in ancient Greece, specifically in the city of Olympia. The Olympic Games were held every 4 years in honor of Zeus, the king god. The prizes for the winning were fame and glory, just how the Olympics today. Today we celebrate the Olympic Games and continue some of the old traditions that were present in Greece, such as the olive leaf crowns and the lighting of the flame and the opening and closing celebration. In the 1965, the Democrat-controlled U.S. Congress passed the Immigration and Nationality Act. The 1965 Act established hemispheric quotas and distributed visas based on job skills and family reunification. Many Greek Americans used the new law to bring family members to the United States. Between the 1960s and the 1980s, more than 1,700 Greeks immigrated to the United States. Many with family reunification visas currently, Greeks now reside in all 50 states, with the greatest numbers living in large cities such as Chicago, New York, and Detroit. Many Greek immigrants have assimilated into the American culture, but some still do remain strong connect with Greek tradition, religion, and ethnicity.